Allora, hai chiesto. Okay, let's begin.
Welcome to the Utah Senate, our press availability time and access from our public over the internet. It's good to have those who are watching on the internet today. We had a beautiful choir presentation from Morgan High School. We do take a little bit of time occasionally to have some culture and a little bit of a break or a respite, and they gave us 3 beautiful numbers today. They were soul soothing, I thought. So we want to thank Morgan High School and their choir. We'll go right into questions. Questions from the media.
There's a House hearing this afternoon on a bill that would redo the law you passed last year that allowed Prop 1 and the gas tax increase, that would allow cities to keep all of the tax increase and not give anything to transit if they don't want to. Do you have any feelings on that bill and what it does to compromises addressed last year?
Well, when you said reverses, I thought maybe it was doing it away. So it's a change, getting rid of the UTA portion of it. Mm-hmm. That was probably part of the reason, if not the main reason for that not passing here in Salt Lake County. So I think it's worth the debate.
Representative Draxler has a bill in Cache County which would allow the county government to take the 40% down to 10%. They couldn't eliminate the total amount, but they would have that flexibility. I don't know if that's the same bill or is it Brian Green?
Different bill. This is the Brian Green bill. Yeah. Draxler's only affects third-class counties.
Yes.
Green's is all counties.
Third and fourth and fifth class counties.
We're seeing lots of requests, and a lot of the requests come from cities and counties that need infrastructure help. And a lot of them are trails and other things that type of funding would help, and we all know that funding infrastructure, taking care of roads and maintaining them is a lot less expensive than replacing them or having to rebuild them. So
I wouldn't predict how that bill would, if that bill will pass the House or the Senate, but I think it's worthy of debate.
I want to ask about Senator Urquhart's proposal, the abolishment of the death penalty. I know Senator Hilliard sat in on that committee last fall that kind of looked at this issue. I wonder if everybody could kind of weigh in on where your thinking is on capital punishment in Utah and whether that's going on.
Senator Hilliard, you're on committee.
We really didn't come to a conclusion, as I recall. My own personal feeling is I would not vote to repeal the death penalty. I know there's all sorts of financial costs and that with it, but my experience is limited as been, but in talking to people, there's some feeling of victims that there ought to be at least that pronouncement. I noticed there was a case, I forget the details on it, that the family came forward and said they did not want the death penalty for the person who had committed the murder that they were charged with. So, and I think the prosecutor listened to the family and decided not to, but there's so many things that go into it. I just think it still ought to be a part of the law, and I suspect that that's what the majority of my people feel too, that I represent. I'll be glad to listen to the debate if he has something new, but I think the feeling here is it has some merit.
There's another bill up this afternoon in the House that would add extra Republican seats to committees that so far have been equal Democrat, equal Republican.
Management Committee and Audit Committee.
What do you think of that proposal? Does it hurt bipartisan work up here? Or?
I'm not sure it will have much of an effect one way or the other than maybe some optics. Here in the Senate, we respect our Democratic colleagues, and the makeup of the committees, obviously has some influence, but we're not here to muzzle or trying to shut out the voice of the Democrats here in the Senate. And so I also feel like that's worthy of debate, and that's a House bill. I think it's Representative Christensen, isn't it? That's running that bill, and there's some merit for it. There's some arguments against it. There's some arguments for it. And so I think the debate, it will be a good debate. The things that I see would be in favor is that it would represent more the numbers that are actually within the bodies. 24 majority members here in the Senate and 5 minority members. And then there's equal representation on those committees. I think there's an argument for us to look at that. But there's also an argument for balance. And so if that does pass the House, we'll probably have a rigorous debate on that, and we'll be glad to get those points out and debate on them and to see if that's something we want to change.
We've talked about this bill in our caucus, and we just feel confident of the Senate having more of a better perspective on the issue versus the House. And they're obviously a different body, and I respect their autonomy, but we feel there is a better perspective here in the Senate, and understanding that it's also the committees themselves. I mean, it's only in legislative and audit. Everywhere else, there is more. It's more reflective of those of the proportionality of numbers. So I think if people understand more what those two committees are there for, and it makes sense to have those numbers in there. But we will see what happens in the House, but we feel better when it comes to the Senate, that we will have more robust conversation. We feel that our Senate majority leadership is very open and willing to work with us, and we're excited to continue that conversation. But I feel it will be a very different conversation when it comes from the House to the Senate, and obviously, the public will be hearing and listening to those conversations. But we feel confident here we can have a more robust and more policy-oriented conversation than what they're going to have in the House. Respectfully to the House. Just a different approach.
Senator Adams, you have a resolution on the Olympics.
Yeah. Isn't that exciting to have another Olympic resolution?
So are you wanting another Olympics?
Well, quality of life in Utah, we experience a 3+% unemployment rate, where our economy's growing. But quality of life isn't just economic development and government regulation. It's part of the recreation ability of people and wanting to experience sport. We host a lot of the Olympic teams here in Utah, and it's been the 2002 Winter Olympics, I think, was a great event. We still have venues that we not only built, but we have money that in an endowment fund that maintains them. Utah is one of the few Olympics that actually made money and has paid for the venue and continues to maintain it. We can show the world how to do it. I also think that we really didn't get our fair shot. If you remember back, 9/11 happened in the fall, just before the Winter Olympics. A lot of people didn't come. They just didn't want to come here. They were scared of having an international event where there might be some type of a problem. And I think we're poised and ready. We could host them again, and I think a lot of the state would like to see them come here again.
Are you guys prepared to fund all of that for infrastructure, because you'd have to readdress a lot of those issues? I think a lot of the infrastructure's here. I mean, look at the venues. We kept them updated. We continue to work on them. What more do we need? Utah, we have volunteers, very, very efficient. I'm a fan of Mitt Romney. I think he did it right. I think he should have been president, quite frankly, after he could turn around the nation like he turned around that Olympics. I vote for him every day. So.
With minimal investment, we can do it. We can do the Olympics again because we have all the venues. There would need to be some upgrading. And as Senator Adams mentioned, at the end of the day, we actually had a surplus from the Olympics. It was put in an endowment too. So yeah, there was some upfront money that was put into it, but that was all paid back to the state. And I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen again. In fact, I think it would be a huge opportunity for our state.
But how serious are you guys about this?
Serious.
Is this a thing, or is this just you would like it to happen and it's nice to have, but it's not really going to happen?
We have the greatest snow on earth.
I mean, I get that, but I'm just trying to gauge, like, is this something, because they had this, there was the state commission and the city commission that examined it and said, hey, sure, we could do it, but nothing's ever come of it.
Well, I think we're a ways out. I mean, these things don't happen overnight, but you hear bipartisan support. And you saw the aerials. We have, I mean, they're breathtaking, stunning events as you see these athletes. And we need to support our athletes here in the state. We need to support the synergism that comes from nations coming together. I love the Olympics. I think a lot of people love them. I'm spellbound by them, and the effort that these young people take to excel. I don't know if we can ever get it done, but if we could, I think it'd be one of the most exciting things that happens.
Maybe we'll get those other groups going.
Yeah.
So Ben, I think the biggest issue is opportunity.
Yes.
We're prepared. We've shown the world that we can do this. We can do it again. We'll do it right, and it will be a great benefit to our state, and to our country, and to the world, as a matter of fact. But it's a timing issue. When an opportunity comes up, Utah wants to be prepared to take advantage of that opportunity. We don't know when that is. Is that in 2026? Is that in 2030? Is that in, could be decades away. But we're just talking about being ready and taking advantage of opportunities that come our way.
Yeah, we have venues. Even in Weber County, I'm aware of the ice sheet that was there that hosted curling. They've doubled that ice sheet. They have additional hockey rinks. I mean, it's something I think Utah loves. I think we love winter games. We love winter sports, and it's part of our fabric here. So, it'll be a great thing.
And hopefully the news you'll give it will get national, so people will say, yeah, there is still skiing. Great skiing this year in Utah. Come on out.
And this is a great year for that.
It is.
Yeah, we can do cross-country skiing in Monroe this year.
That's true. St. George, that was the way to get to the
Do some backcountry.
Yeah.
Other questions? Kirsten, any from our viewers on the internet?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I apologize if you talked about this earlier in the week, but I was hoping that you could respond to a potential lawsuit that's in the works against the state. Alliance for Better Utah is hoping to try and force the state to provide more funding for public education. Is this something that you're aware of, and what is your sort of response to it? Utah's only one of 4 states that doesn't have a lawsuit like this in the works.
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
I served on the Constitutional Revision Commission for many years, and we redid the education article. The lawsuit was originally filed in federal court in Texas, the Rodriguez case, if I remember correctly, and the Supreme Court said it's not a federal issue. You've got to go by the state constitutional issue. When we redid our educational article, if you read it, you'll see that we've taken out the language that other states have used as the basis for the litigation. I love a great comment I heard from the former Senator Warren Pugh. He said, we do what's right, not what the courts tell us we have to do. We understand that equity funding is important. So I don't think there's really a basis under the Utah Constitution for a lawsuit to be filed because the way we've worded our Constitution. Now, a judge may find differently that, the federal court may change. I understand all of that. But I've always said the principal thing that we need to do to really fund our public education correctly is make the federal government pay a proper property tax for the 75% of our land that they hold, and then we'd have money to fund our kids. But the fact is, we get so little money from the federal government, they control so much of our land that it really handicaps us. If that one thing were done, I wish the court would then order that, say, federal government, you've got 75% of the land, you pay an appropriate property tax, solve the problem.
So you're asking me, do you have any thoughts?
No, as you know, one of our caucus members, Senator DeBacus, is running a bill addressing some of the tax base for public education. So we feel that there's solutions out there, and it will require, in this case, a constitutional amendment. Lawsuits, I think are mechanisms, but we feel there are ways to do it through our legislative process. And if that includes that constitutional amendment, we are, supportive of that as a caucus to make sure that we are moving forward towards equity and the funding.
Yeah, I'm surprised at it. Last year, we passed a property tax increase for education. We gave, I think, Lyle, over 8% increase in the education budget. That's the largest that I've seen since, I think I've got 10 or 11 years here in the legislature. And so we're having some of the largest increases in education funding, so I'm surprised at lots of it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, and thanks to our viewers, and stay tuned. We'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you.